we'll start. So, how are you doing? Do you get a chance to do any chazorah on this material? Probably.
I find it difficult. I give it a read it once, not chazorah, but I read it once. I read it once. I don't know if it's called chazorah, but I read it.
Fair enough.
If I were to come up with a kasha, that would be very
fair enough. Good, so we're holding it. This is a shir in Hemshech Tov Reish Ayin Beis. Today is Oyer Yud Aleph Iyar, and we're learning in Chelik Aleph. Ma'im Dibra Maschu V'Hashem Amar Machasa Niyam Avram Pasha V'Yir Tov Reish Ayin Daled, and we're holding on Omud Tov Nun Zayin at the beginning of chapter Reish Kofo. So we saw in the previous chapter the whole biur when we get to the Helem of Pnimius Chochmas Timur was that the Etzem Helem, that itself was in effect the Etzem Gilui, or the Etzem Atoikev of that Madrega Atzmai. Like we saw when we get to the Av of the Av, that the Av Atzmius Davki brings him to a Inyan Shel Gevura V'Kapeda, sometimes Al Ben, but that's not two inyanim. One is not a lavush to the other, no, that is one and the same Inyan, that the Atzmius Ha'ava comes in a Tzio, we saw, of Gevura. So in a similar way, Lamaila, we saw that all the Helomas were stating, or they are mitzad the etzem goiva, or the madrega of Chochmas Timur, and they are v'emes gilel kus naila b'yoisa mitzad the efshoriyas, or that to be miskabel in the nevroim mamish kemoishahu, where the far looks to them like a initial gvulis for helomas stating. And that was the union that we. However, we saw that the Avedis Odom with the Hester of the Goddess is Davke to be Mahapach, the Helomas Vestadim, and to be Makabel and to be Ra'ui to the Etzem Elakus, which it is, not which is behind it, but which Behemoth is. Gila Elakus Ba'ifan Naila B'Yesa. And so we saw that leads to that the Pele, a Sisa Pele, or the Pele itself, becomes Aleph. And that we brought down at the beginning of this chapter from the Zohar HaKodesh, that the Zohar in Pasha Bola also says the same thing, that Asisa Pele, Ki Asisa Elef, touched the Zohar, that the Pele itself becomes Elef, and Elef Loshen Limud, Loshen Upana, but the Indian of the Pele Ba'atzmei Misgaleh, or Yizgaleh. That's what we're holding. So, what the day I asked her, Shanasa Mia Kiswe.
Like the Dvar Malchus this week. Like the Dvar Malchus this week, the Pirushim in Aleph.
Oh.
Upana Alufa Shalom, Upana Limud.
Ah, yeah, you mean
Aleph Pele, in the Dvar Malchus.
In this week's Dvar Malchus. Are you referring to Pasha Emoya?
Yeah.
What's is that Toshin Nun Aleph? Yeah. So the Rebbe says that the union of the Aleph the pillar becomes Aleph, or that the Aleph is
the Aleph that you put into the Gola.
Oh, the Aleph that you put in. Oh, yeah, I remember it. Yeah, that the Aleph that goes into the Geula, that Kuf is the union for Limud, the union for Gala. Yeah. Right. Good. Is Va'apele Hazeh. I'm sorry. וזהו על ידי האסתר שנעשה מהחיסה והפלא הזה, על ידי זה יהיה גילוי מבחינת פלא עצמוי. The etzem pele itself will be miskale, and that's what pele nasa ale. Vayihi hagilui Yes, says of yes oz mibamaten Torah. The Gilui of the Pele Atzmoi, which is will be from the Mashmoyas of the Lashon, it'll be Davkeli Osid, but that's going to be in a Maile Yeseda Afil Gabi Matan Torah. Okamesh Kosu Ki Ayin be'ayin Yiru Bebchinas Rias Amahus Mamish. That Ayin be'ayin Yiru, meaning that the Ayin Hagashmi, the Makabel Lamata, with his Ayin, he will see literally the Ayin van Elakus, how it's Ayin van Ayin. In other words, the Kaviochel, the Ayin Lamaila will look Lamata, and the Ayin Lamata will look back into the Ayin HaElyon, which means that the Ayin of Elakus will be Miskale Beria Haki, Brura Vaki Gedoyla, but that's Rias Hamahus Mamish. Meaning that a Matan Torah, despite the great Gilui that it wasn't Mahus, Gilui Hamahus Mami. The Matan Torah hoye rak sheimin es haniro chulu. Shebechinas Mahus Ayin Seif hoye etzlom bechinas shmio lavad. Ole Moshe Moshiach yeh bechinas re'iyah mamish chulu. So that's a famous Mechilta. That's a lashon in the Mechilta, which is a Medrash Yadua al Sefer Shmois. And Rashi brings down over there at the end of the Sel Sadibres, Rashi brings down. You want the air conditioner? Okay, in that case, it's better to close the windows if you kind of above. Huh?
It's off.
Oh, you mean you wanted it turned off? Right, I see. That's what Rashi brings down on the pasuk for Cholo Om Roim es hakoiles v'es halapidim. Rashi brings down over that Roim es hakoiles. Rashi says Shehoyu Roim es hanishma she'ef shezeh b'mokim acher. Then in any other place you couldn't have such a thing, that you'd be able to be Roim Shoimim. I'm sorry, that they were Shoimim es a Roim es a nishma, slicha. Roim es a kolam, Roim es a koiles. So Rashi says that they were Roim es a nishma, shezeh ef b'mokim acher. In other words, you can hear a heard thing, but you can't see it. And until they're able to see it. And here the Rebbe brings another lashon, so that even though Rashi doesn't quote the other side of the lashon, and there's a whole sikha from the Rebbe about that, why Rashi only quotes one side of the lashon of the Mechilta. Well, the Mechilta says, Shehoyu roim es anishma, v'shoimin es anira. They were able to see that which is normally only heard, and they were to hear that which is normally seen. And so the whole why does Rashi only bring one side of it? Because Rashi's being concerned with the pasuk, and the pasuk is roim es koiles. So that's the union of re'iyah b'hanishma. Of the emphasis that according to the Mechilta there was also an under madrega for sheimin es hanira. So the Rebbe teaches here in an interesting way. I mean, that's a whole pilpul in the Mechilta and in the Rashi there. As I said, there's a whole beer from the Rebbe. But suffice it to say that the Rebbe brings it here with a simplicity that what you might call the Maila Ha'ikris of Matan Torah was Sheimim es Hanira, and that the Mahus Ha'ein Seif Hoya Etzlon B'Pina Shmiela Davar. So we have to say that Benikele Inyaneno Khan, the Ik is that second lashon, that they were Sheimim es Hanira. So why does he touch it? Nira is Mahus Ha'ein Seif. Well, that was at Matan Torah only in an even from Shmiel Avad, not in an even from Re'iyah, but nonetheless the Emerson name for Mahus Ha'ein Seif, or the Emerson reference to Ha'ein Seif, Mahus Ha'ein Seif is Nira. The Rabbi Taisa, Shemi Misanira, they were only hearing that which is the Madrega of Nira, which is our Mahus Ayin Tzei. I have to say that the emes is that the emes of Nira is Mahus Ayin Tzei. And we're going to see a little bit later in the chapter that somebody who works according to Derech HaChassidus, or Derech Amiti, then he should see in Alle Inyanim, he should see only Elikus. And he shouldn't really see the world, he should just see different expressions of Elikus. That's a fila, our Nivra is Nimtzalamata in the Hagbalas from Elamase. And if you look in Perikov Tes in Tanya, it's very interesting that when he's talking about the Cheshbon Nefesh, Rabbeinu, right, Korev Sofa Perek, not Sofa Perek Mamish, he brings over there that he should be Mismarim and Me'id, that really Elikus is Nira B'muchash Mamish. And Royim Elikus B'muchash, and he should be Misragis, and he should be Meirim Koyo, Rash Bi'atzmai, Lamata, Machis V'loi Roya Sa'emes Anira Le'inayim, Sheharei Royim Elikus B'muchash, and then the Alter Rebbe writes, Shezeh Yisoid Kol HaAveda V'kamesh Kosa B'mokim Ach. That's the Yisod of the whole of it. Kol HaAveda is a Yisod. You see Elikus B'muchash. That is a pretty heavy statement. I mean, Elikus B'muchash. So the Alter Rebbe, and the Beinani has to be angry with himself. Why doesn't he see Elikus B'muchash? That's one of the Ika Cheshbonis and that he has to make, and then he's married to Alter Rebbe. That's only because he doesn't want to really look be'emes. He's nechas in Cheshbonis of Shus ve'hevel elamazeh. The far as that is the emes hanir leinai. That steht dort. In Amir Lefise, Kumta is that we have to say that the higher you go, and the more emistic you go in Elikus, then the more that should be just nearer le'einayim, and that should be nearer b'muhuz. Because that is the pshitas v'amitias ha'kigodol she'yocholiyah. And that's what the Rambam says, that everything which eloi nimto ela me'amitis himotza amitias himotza oi. The emes of Fahan, the emes of being, the emes of Nimtzonas is Elikus, Amitas, Emotoi, and all the other Inyanim just come from that Nimtzoim mi Adover Hazeh. And that's what the Alter Rebbe is, and he's going to quote it here right near the end of the Omud. If there would be permission given to the eye in Shara Yichud, Perikimo, then we wouldn't see what we see now. We would only see the Ayin Eloki, and as much as Liosid Lowe, we'll see even more than that. We'll see Mamish Elikus B'Kolo Atzmas Eintzei, Pavuas, or also the Emser Metzias, and that's a Mitis Himotori. You remember everything which is Yoisa Amiti, Yoisa Atzmi, or that's Yoisa Pshita, or that's Yoisa obvious. And the whole reason why we don't see all of these inyonim is only Mitzada Helim Hester, which is only Klapeinu. It's not PM Islamite, Klau. That's what he's been Perikov over there, the Alter Rebbe, that the whole Hester is only Legavid and Ivroim. Over Legabe his Borch, ain't Kol Helim Hester Klau.
What's the Musag of Einun Rishut? If we would have given Rishut?
Yeah. Well, he writes here that there's a certain neshamas that they have that rishus, that they see it, but he writes here in brackets.
No, but the reason we don't see Elikus is because no rishut, or because the hell?
Yeah, I agree. That lashon nitna rishus is an interesting lashon, but it's much he doesn't want you to see it right now, and he doesn't give permission almost. Yeah. We have to say that that's mitzad the seder hahelem, observed by from Kotzer. What I'm trying to suggest is that that's only Mitzadei Zetam, that's the Seder of the Helim. If the Helim is only a one way in it's not a real Helim, the cloud. You can't be Mailim of Elikus. Ain't shum dover that's Mailim Afelakus. What can be Mailim Afelakus is he himself, the Eibishter. He can stop you seeing him. As he can't be Mailim Kenegdo. Ain't called Matthias Kenegdo. There's no Matthias in anything Kenegdo. It's all bottled be tachlis. Maximum you can say Kula Kamei Chaloicha Choshiva, and that's also a luxury to say Kaloi Choshiva. That's also a giving. With a kofadimian, it's giving some sort of chashivas to the inyan. Over b'yemes lamit ein kol gerish and matias klar. The higher and the more simple and the more pshitistic you go, the more it's just there. Ain't shum dover, mailimu, master klar. And what is there? It's a mamahus. So the Eivshter created Nivroim that they should experience it. That was the whole union. The Diralei V'Taktoidim is Baruch means that they're going to be there and they will come to begin to stamiten by. They'll come to know him. So how are you going to know him? How are you going to know him? So therefore the Eibishter has given a koyach into the Adam, which is observation, but there is also a key poshet v'ki naila she'achoriyat, and that's the union from Riyasai. Riyasai naim. And if what should really be is that the men should just be able to see Etzemela, because all the Helamas for the stadium are just how do you call it, a spiel, mamish a spiel. Like the famous Lashon of the Baal Shem Tov, it's all a lot of schwindel trap. It's just these trick stairs, and when you go up you just don't see where you're going, over the emphasis. So it's all there, but and the father says, what happened to Matan Torah was Shoimin as Hanira. They got very close to it. In other words, the Nero, which is that means that which is there. That's what it's meant to be, and that is the immediate Pshita Samatir, that everything is just there, and what should really be is, we should also experience that in the Oifnaki Poshut, Vaki Patuach Sheyesh, the Hainu Inyan Ariyazah, in Ayin, and so that's what could have been and what should have been. But Matan Torah, Ato Horeisa Lo Das, that the Eibishter Taki showed it. Of Afal became the Rebbe said it wasn't mamish that. It was Sheiminus Haniro. In other words, instead of just fumbling about, trying to work out where is the Atzmas Eitzei, from where is he, at least they had a Inifa Sheimin. And Sheimin, for our purposes here, means the Inifa Nasoga. And therefore we're going to see a little bit later that after Matan Torah and prior to the Giluf and Liosin, Mamish, a mensch is able to come very close to that. He can have the Shmiya in the Inyan Anira, which is more or less borders on the Inyan Re'iyah Mamish. And that's what the Rebbe means, that they were shoimin, that's a nira, meaning that they came to an appreciation of the nira in a sensual way. It just wasn't mamish with the sense of kiposhut, but it was with a sensual, inner, the mensch, in the most vivid and obvious way to him as a goof. He can sense it, through the chushi haguf. And it's only that it was shmiya, and we're going to see that shmiya is anyway very kind of the Rei. Oh, that was Iyar from Matan Torah. And is, like we saw in the previous chapter, that really everything is there. Everything is just there. The whole thing is that there's this strange Gevulas kilo in the middle that we don't experience it as an Adam experiences a Beis Naki Mukhlat. If I'm the kasha is of somebody. I mean, B'midah Mesuyemes, it's of us. But B'midah Mesuyemes, with all Chas V'Sholem, not meaning anything disrespectful, Klafi Maila, it's also after Eibishter that Mitzadei time, he hasn't been Megalit, Mamish B'Even Kozer, even though, I mean, he's pretty Megalit. I mean, things, all sorts of things are there which should really bring you very close to that. That's the union. We call it Simonim, we call it Inyonim, but those Simonim are Dvorim Hanirim Le'inayim B'Teicha Elo. They're not, דברים הניתונים להשגה עמוקה ומסובכת, לאו כל מלאכה סבל דור. No, on the contrary, the etzim simonim and the etzim minyonim, everybody can see them. Just as some people see them, but they stop, they don't want to reach the maskanas, ha'amitiyim, because of the chashash, pen yoimru habriyas ha'kayetza b'zeh. V'shema ploini lo yeh merutze mizeh v'kayetza b'zeh. Edifar, says the Rebbe, the Indian is that was what happened at Matan Torah, only a Moshe Mashiach, Yev Chinas Riyah Mamish. In other words, that was Korev Riyah. It was getting close. We're going to see that Shmiyah is very close to Riyah. However, it wasn't Riyah Mamish, Beinayim Agashmiyas, and then the Moshe Mashiach, that's what's going to happen, because all the helmets are going to stop. And that's Etzem Elikus really begolui. The only reason we don't see it is because of lack of ability to use our senses in a full way. And therefore, when there'll be the Pasichas Einayim be'emet, we'll just see it. Or even a key mukshi that it can be by the other. Va'inyan hu, says the Rebbe, Dehine Bevolzeh, hu alidei ha'aveda achsho be'ha'elomis ve'eh stadium. You got to still keep working at the Halomisfer stadium, and through, like we saw earlier, not taking them because it's Halomisfer stadium. You can be moirid der Hester, and you can see bimkoimom the amitisah oimaka hagiloi. Like we saw the whole Indian of not taking the Nefesh Abami is at his own error or his own language. No other, you're coming to the pshitas and the takeover of the Nefesh Abamis that he has b'pnimiusay, like we saw in the last chapter. And on the contrary, to bring him even to that he should even do tshuva and has all the what it means, the bilbul of the hester, and he should come and meet him, like we saw the whole deal in the last shia, that the emes uftu of our lives in this world and our avoid in this world is to be poil on the Nefesh Abami. The Nefesh Elokis doesn't need all of these in Yonim. And the same with the Helen Hester, it's working with a dover which is really only, it's only a Hester klape one direction, and the Hester is really only mitzad dover hamaylim. And what is the dover hamaylim? The Nefesh Abami is, although if the mensch is Meisir, the Nefesh Abami is from that Helem, then there's nothing stopping him, the Nefesh Elokis for sure not. Because the Nefesh Elokis, anyway, wants and has the whole appreciation of the Indian, and it's only mitzad the Helem of the Nefesh Abami that she doesn't just have the freedom of her seeing. Well, that's not why she came down here. She came down here to persuade the Nefesh Abami is that he should stop that Helem Hester. Therefore, says the Rebbe, or that's a whole avodah achshol. Va'inyan hu, he says, dehine yedua diaridas anishoma lamata hu rak levarer es agufi hanefesh abami. The whole reason why the neshama came down lamata was to purify the guf and the nefesh abami. And we saw in the previous chapter that means to bring the nefesh abami to tshuva, to make him also be nimshach with all his koyach and with all his bren, and his teikef after elokut. That's what we call a varer sagufa nefesh abami. Darei neshama atzmo liyesem mepchinas atzmiyas elokut. He said the neshama itself, due to the fact that it's mamish from etzem elokut. But the maskon is going to be that it doesn't really need any inyan le'atzmi in the arita, because it's mamish atzmi selakut. Uki yadua ayefresh bein kol hanivroim gam melochim ho'elyonim. In other words, the melochim aki elyonim linshomes. The kol hanivroim shoyresh yisavusom hu mibchinas chitonius ha'keilim v'chitonius ha'oyer shebibchinas moker le'elam. So both the chitonius are the kelim and the chitonius are hamalubish behem, or they are moker for the inyan of oilamaz. Shezehu b'chinas ha'orele levad. It's only a inyan from a ha'ore derech malchus tatzilas, which becomes a moker le'nivroim, and that's only a ha'ore di ha'ore as one on. because the whole how it's nimshach, the kelim from Atzilus is already a ha'ora bilvad, and then even the and Atzilus itself is a ha'ora. That's what it is. And then it's nimshach, the parsa, and the dvarim amalim in between Malchus and Olam Biyah, so it becomes only a ha'ora de ha'ora levad. And that's the Indian of the Shari Hanivroim, Afila Hanivroim Akiya Lyoinim. However, the Indian from Nishomes, the Shurish on Nishomes, who is Pnimius Akedim, the Atzmius Ha'oyer, Shalamaila Mipchinas Moker. It's Lamaila from to be a Moker to the elements, the Alkain, Yesh Hefresh Ba'etzem Isavusom. And there was a difference in the very coming about, or the creation. What he means on Nishomas Elakus Mamish, I feel the way they come down Lamata, I feel they yored Lamata into Elamas Biyah, what then they appear to be Neroim, as the famous Biyah has it, of a really Be'emes, Be'pnimius, Be'atzmius. In Yonam, they're not Neroim. And that's what he makes the difference here. So what is it that touch Pnimius HaKelim? What it's all on at the different Pnimius HaKelim, as in Yonam, is only to be a Kli Kabbalah El HaOyer, and in that Gufa, to as much as the Atzmius HaOyer as is Shaya. Well, therefore the Pnimius HaKelim are called B'mokemacher, and considers the meaning of Shem HaToyah. They're Mataya, the Etzem Mahus HaKli, and then that Gufa is also Mataya de Oyer HaNimshach, it's Megala, and Mataya de Inif and Atzmius. And therefore the Pnimis HaKelim in Yonam is Rach, Lekabel es HaOyer, and Liyisyached, Liyish Bottle, Betatis HaBitl, Via Actus Him HaOyer, until they become like one. Indian that the Pnimis HaKli and the Atzmius HaOyer, Amishachtim Zeba, Zeba Zer, Beteilim Zela, Zer, but that's not Shaita in Yonah Habriya or Shaita Gilu Michutz LaAtzila. That's in Yonim how they are, Betoich Atzila. And even to Amshochem, Sphira La Sphira, it's also not Shaita. That's purely the Inif and the Kelim how they are. Why do we say that the Nishomas are Pnimis HaKelim? Why don't we just say that they're Pnimis HaOyer? Was it the Uftuf and Inyan HaKelim Davke? So we see that Alaf Kol HaMadregas Pnimis HaKelim, the Inif and HaKeli is of course of in Yoneh is the Inif and Metzias. Avil and Atzilus, like Gabi the Keli in Yoneh is, as it's called, the famous Lashon, and it's Gavanei HaOyer. They're like the colors, they're like the shades of the earth. They are already the Inif and a Gevisa Inyan, Metzias Be'atzmom, even the Pnimis HaKelim. I said, therefore we say that the Neshomas are from the Kelim, because their meaning is Loredas Lamata, and to be a in Shoma, Matthias Okosov, the ganze meaning from the Neshoma is that he should be Nimshetla, or she should be, or he should be Nimshet Lamata, and they should be a Matthias Kilo of Elakus in the Elam, whatever Elam it may happen to be, or be Ike, the Tachlis HaKavona in the Elam HaTachtain, that they have to be Shai to the uniform Tzias and Mislavish and Aguf, even though the Etzem and Neshoma Ma'echitesi, Mamish Mislavish, Obasokosov, the Indian is to be somehow other Mishyachid with Aguf, Gashmila, and so that's the difference. All the other Nivroim, they are Misave, and they become Ayesh Minha, Ayin, Alidei Tachas Ahelam of their Ayin Mia, Ayesh, and therefore you can have a Inif and Ayesh, and you can talk about Ayin. But the Inif and Nishomis, they don't become in an Inif and Yesh Mi'ayin or Amiti, they just become like the Kelim themselves. The Kelim become a Gevisa Inyan, that's a Koyach HaMahus, a Koyach HaMatzias in Elakus Kufa. So when they come down Lamata, they remain that way. They're not really Aisavas Yesh Min Ayin, no, they're the Inyan. Like the Alter Rebbe brings in the famous Igeras HaKodesh, chapter 20, the Alter Rebbe writes over the Neshomes are Doima to Inyan HaKelim Shahim, Mahus Elakus Shanasa B'Mtzias. They bring to the Rosh that's not the Indian and the Shomer. Amamela, der Kemoya Keili Mamish, meaning the Pnimis V'Achmius, the Keili was in Yon is just Gilele, Elakus V'Yachad, Yishachtus, with a Gileod Naile, that's in from the oil. Therefore, the Nishomas, they are different in their Etzem Isavis than all the other Nivroim, and therefore we can't really call them Nivroim, they're only Nivroim, B'Shema Amushal, or B'Shema Kinui, or we're not BMS Leamite. Therefore, when the Neshama comes down Lamata, what is the whole function of what is the Taklis? So he says, V'lochin Neshama Kemoishe Hila Maila. I'm sorry. Therefore, the Neshamas, since they come from that Pnimis Akelim, and they don't come b'derech his slicha. V'al kein yesh hefresh be'etzem hisavuso. The Neshamas same Pnimis Elakus Mamish. That was the same.
Why does it say at the beginning Shorish and Neshamas? What's the difference between Shorish and Neshamas that he mentions afterwards?
No. What it means is the Shorish is in the Pnimis Akelim. Therefore, the way they are, the Neshamas Kemoy Shahim, is they're different than all the other Nivroim. He has to describe you the Shorish in order that you should know what they are. He says, Neshama Kemoy Shehi Lamailo Hasagoso He Bepinas Hasogas Hamohus Mamish Loirach Hasogas Hamatzias Levad. So now, we were talking about the Neshama, how she comes Lamata. Now all of a sudden he says the Neshama Lamaila. So what's the DNA with there? That the Neshamas, Afilu in Olam Abriya, Afilu in Gan Eden Ha'elin, they've already been created. They're already Misavim. Because Olam Abriya is already from the Olam Asah, and Nivroim Mi'ayesh Le'ayin, and Mamil Afilu Gan Eden Ha'elin, even though Gan Eden Ha'elin is Gilei Atzilas Asher B'Briya, of a Sokosot, the Neshamas already become how Elakus can already be Nimshach B'derech Richuk Masuyam into Elam Abriya. Therefore, says the Rebbe, if we're going to say that their Hisavas is not like Elam Abriya Graden, or their Hisavas is just a Hamchosha of Elakus into Elam Abriya, and therefore he said their whole Avodah, the Maila in Gan Eden, is the Indian from Hasogas Mahus Elakus Mamish. So he says, Hasagoso, he beginners Hasogas Mahus Mamish, Loirach Hasogas Hamatzias Levad. Now what does he mean, Loirach Hasogas Hamatzias Levad? Because it's well known that all the other Nivroim and Olam Biyah, Olam Abriya, V'Shariha, Olamas, or their whole Hasoga is only Hasogas Hamatzias. Afil the Malachim Aki Alyonim in Olam Abriya are only Masik the Inifan Matzias Alakus. Of a Mamish Mahus, that they're not Masik. And I say that's the Chlolos Ahevdo Bein Kol HaSogas. Mi Olam Abriya Olamata, all the Hasogas in those Olamas are all Hasogas Hamatzias, but not Hasogas Hamahus. Pratla Neshamas they are in Gan Eden, but those Neshamas they are in Gan Eden, they are Masig Mamish Mahus Alakus. And even though it's brought in my mind that even there is already a Hevdo between Mahus Alakus Ha'aliz and Atzilas. Well, that's what he says now. It is Mahus Alakus Ha'aliz and Atzilas. Now it comes into Gan Eden as a bit of an afkamina, because it's already only a ziv from that Mahus Ha'aliz and Atzilas. But nonetheless, the Neshamas are masig the Mahus of the ziv. In other words, wherever they're masig Mahus. So we notice here, Ayin from Hasoge. The Rebbe says that they have a Soge, and that Hasoge is Hasoge Samahus. And he said that's different. Klolos Elam is Biyah. What Klolos Elam is Biyah, Ayin from Matzias Pilvad, V'loima Mahus. There's no Gilin Mahus Elakus in Biyah. Rat Pratzeh in Gan Eden and in Gan Eden Gufa in the Madregas Ha'elyonis in Gan Eden. So we have to watch ourselves carefully now. The Rebbe says that the Neshamas, due to their special hisavas, they are masig Elokus. For the time being, we've said that it's in for Hasogya. And it's a Hasogya Mahus Mamish. Ukemoy Shebatzilas, Shemusig Mahus Elokus Kaneda. Just like in Atzilas, if we can talk about Hasogya in Atzilas, well, it's difficult to talk about Hasogya in Atzilas because Atzilas is only Elokus. What is Masig what? Who is Masig what? So it's well known that the Alter brings in that same Megeras in Tanya, that in Atzilus there's what we call heicholas. That in Atzilus there are heicholas, and it's mashma that in those heicholas there are malachim elyonim, and there's also neshamas. Yeah, and der oifen haasogya in those heicholas, since they're a little bit already maruchak even masuyah from the etzem oilam of Atzilus, therefore try to say that they're masik it. They're masik something. And that's masik mahus elakus kanoida, not matzias. Cholila, no mamish mahus elakus. V'hainu, lafish Atzilus hu elakus. B'mira in Atzilus it's moving for what? Because the whole of Atzilus, I figure the Eicholas Atzpon are all Elokus Mami. So what's the Shaykh HaSogya because? We said that's a Dova Dak, a Dova Hazel Azak. What's Shaykh HaSogya in Atzilus? So what happens is that in Atzilus, it's like Mamisha Kaviova, a tremendously high gain, that those inyonim which are not really nibdal, but they're ki'ilu, Ayin, the Atzilus is masik its own self, the Neshamas are they are, and Atzilus are masik Atzilus. And therefore it's a very darkistic form of Hasogya, and Kemuvin, it's in the Inifan, Mahus Kipshudik, the whole element of Atzilus is Elikus Atzpe. It's only in Mahus. The Chiddush is that once we come down into Bria, what Bria is Mamish Yesh Mino Ayans, Mamish Inifan Yeshes. Was in Yeshes is only Shaykh HaSogya Sama Matthias Bovad. Ayesh can only know that there is Elikus, not the Mahus of Elikus Klau. The Neshamas, however, are not like that. The Neshamas afilu how they're chutzli Atzilus. They're in Gan Eden, in Bria, in Olam HaBria, then they're masig the Indian of Mahus. It is Atzilus hu Elokus to be Nivroim, actually is Gile HaMahus. Stam Nivroim, Neshamas. Of a Stam Nivroim, even the Malachim Aki Alyonim, they can't be Gile HaMahus, Shlo yiyu od b'metzias Niv. Right, they wouldn't be in a state of near. Well, if they were masig mahus, then the whole union of yesh mi'ayin is helam mahus. As if mahus was miscounted to them, they wouldn't be a yesh b'klau. It would be until the whole matzias of nivroim. Avi latzilas liyoisha elakus. And that's what we said. Those are the big chiddush here. That in Atzilas, one elakus is masiga, another one union elakus is masiga. Atvaita. Aber Atzilus Elokus musik shom mahus ela. It's like one, like Adikot, the one thing being masik the other. Mashenkin in Bia, Chaita. In Bia, it's only Metzias Elokus by its definition, and those are the Helen Be'ester of Malchus Atzilus. And the Far says the Rebbe, Ukamoy Kain, the big Chiddush is, however, HaNeshama, the Neshama, how she is in that Gan Eden, how it is, a certain Gile of Atzilus in Olam HaBria, Liyoisa Elokus, since she's also Elokus, and even the Yisavas doesn't alter that, even though she became, as it were, a created entity. That didn't change the etzeminion of her being Elokus, that we just mentioned. He b'bchinas hasogas hamahus, dahainu re'iyas hamahus. Now here we see a huge move.
Even in Bria.
Yeah, even in Bria. I feel in Bria, we see here a movement from hasoga into re'iyah. It's an ishno hasoga, and this is re'iyah. What is it for Ayin? So we have to say that if you're masig mahus, then it's like we said before, if if you get to Mahus, then you get to the Matthias of every. Beyond Mahus, Elokus is nothing anymore. That's him. If you get to Mahus, how do you call it? All the barriers just automatically fall. This whole inner, there being a difference between a Soga and Ria and the other Inyanim, well, that's, all because we're dealing with Matthias. Even though there's a Soga, then it can be a higher inner, and then it can be a inner from Ria Sama. Rias Gashmias v'chulu, or Mamish Rias Amahus in Ayin in Eloki, as they're dying low. But if there is Ria, and we can describe it as Ria, then that means all the barriers have fallen, and since she's reached Mahus, the Neshama, then it's hard to say that she experiences it as a Ria. In other words, the picture of a Ria causes a beetle. Similarly, that's how she is in Gan Eden. It's like as if she's seeing Mamish Elokus. In other words, that the Asoga automatically implies that the reaction to that Asoga is as if we understand the reaction to Re'iyah. However, das is moving lekol echad, das is nicht a Re'iyah Fushiyas. It's not like we understand Re'iyah Lamata. Being correct, no matter how much you will be massing, and no matter how much you move up in Hasoge to Ria the Chochma Hafila, and Ria Pnimis Atmis Hasoge, you didn't see Elokus with the eyes. And the Chiddush Eliyasid Love, and the Chiddush maybe of certain great Neshamas, that they actually see Elokus Beria Mucha. And that is a new union and a new change, or even by Matan Torah that wasn't b'shleim somewhat. That they should move from the Asoga Ke'ilu Roya and the Asoga Roya Mamish to Ria Gashmish Kipshuta. De'od lo kara, afilo legavi the Neshomas. And therefore, that's what we say that in Gan Eden they have Re'iyah. We only mean Hisamtus Asoga, that the barrier of the Asoga falls down, but they get to the Bittul. That causes. In other words, that they're bottled just like as if they would have seen of a Bepel Mamish Beria Mukshis, Chaitot, because it's an Olam Eloki, it's an Olam Rukni.
In Gan Eden they don't have physical eyes.
That's what we're saying. That they can't have real chushia. Wie ze weiß die.
With our physical eyes we're going to see.
What do you want? We're going to shepherd nicht mit Gan Eden as a starring. I don't know. Maybe they do. He's a kohen of America. He remembers what was like in Gan Eden. He bears witness that they don't have eyes over there. So I think we have to say Ein Nochanami. But just to be Mo'er the B'dichusa, I was Mo'er of that in it. And sometimes it gets very serious, don't it? But anyway, Ein Nochanami, Edifah, we got Ayin van Asoga, and that Asoga is poil in the Neshama. What we would understand, Ria would be built. I know Bittul, Gomu, Bittul, Bederach Hiskalal is Bittul B'Matthias, and therefore we call it Ria. Of a Mamish Ria Muchashis, that so far, how do you say, nobody's at. Not the Neshamas in Gan Eden, and not the Neshamas down here. By Matan Torah they got very close. Of So the Rebbe said, I'm sorry, but that's not 100% true. The Alidei Chassidus is Yogi Warren. And we're going to see here most purely Dikazak, what the Rebbe says. And that's what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. I mean, how else do you understand Perikot Test? He says, a real Bemuchash in a simon that something is happening or has happened. And just before I came down, I was standing in my room, a bocher burst into my room about something, and I said, "You hear what's in the Welt soll sein, as wie Chassidus will." He couldn't figure what the heck I'm talking about, so he just said, "Yo." And other words, if we would only see the world, and we would live in the world the way Chassidus does, then we'd already be like the Rebbe. The Rebbe said to open your eyes, we would be a fraction of a shmektavik away from that. And maybe some of us have already done it. That would have been enough. You have to wait for everybody. Who's got time to wait for everybody? Therefore, we're going to see that there is, very close to this whole Iyar of moving into the realm of the Pushim, Kanla, Mata, and Oilama. Right, po. In Gan Eden, nicht, even though we call it Riyasama. Says the Rebbe, began. That's why she's in Gan Eden. To show him who Mahusala. Yeah, as well, no? Even though it's not Mamish Mahus like in Atzilas, but it is Mahu. To say, Hefrish ben Gan Eden, or Oilamas, the Oilamas hain mizayin tach toinim. They're from the Midas of Atzilas, what they call the Zayin tach toinim. Sheboyim bechinas islapshes. Those Midas are held to be, mislavish and Oilam abriyo. Mamish alideh the islapshes koidem in Malchus da. Atzila, over Gan Eden, Mea Gimel Shoino is. Gimel Rishain is the Atzilas, Keser Chokma Bina, or sometimes when Mefarish Gimel Rishain is Chokma Bina Da'at, or in Emerson, Yesh Ladun was really the same Inyan, and that Gimel Rishain is, that is Mea in Malchus Atzilas, and that is Mea, Alidei Malchus Atzilas into Elama Abriya. Aber it's a gile of Moichin. Kesef Chokma Bina is Moichin. Mamish Moichin. Shehu gile hama, who's a Kamosh Kosev Mokim. Not Stam Moichin, or this is Pnimis Ve'atzmias HaMoichin. And therefore the Neshama in Gan Eden, being as she is Elokus, and Me'adot is Gil Elokus, she's just like a Me'ain of Elam HaAtzilas. She is anyway, and she's looking at my and the beetle in that is a beetle which we call Re'il. Beyod Lamata Bigdei Laharish Gam Laguf and every Shabamis Bechinas Gilein. In other words, the Neshama came down Lamata with all this unbelievable arsenal of unbelievable weapons that she has. I know that she's Elokus, and she doesn't change through these others, she remains Elokus. She's come from a place where she knows in Asoga Mahus, and she knows also Riyas Mahus. The Asoga is so pneumian, so Amiti is that is called Riyah, and so she comes with all that down here, Lamata, Shalom Aleichem. How do you call it? The Neshama down here, Lamata now, with all this, what on earth is she supposed to do down here? So she's supposed to take that and show the Nefesh HaBamis a video. Now we tell you, here it is. Laharis, to advise the Nefesh HaBamis. In other words, you've got to take the Nefesh HaBamis, you can say, oh, here are you, see, give a quote. In other words, that if we let the Nefesh Elokis, if we let her do her work, BMS, all she's got to do is show him the films, she just shows him you see? And he says, oh, wow. You see? Oh, girl. In other words, that's BMS, the Aveda van the Nefesh Elokis. No wish again. Vibal Zador Komene Agbolas and Komene Elamas Vastadium, what they come to mention himself, because he plays in to what you might call the hands of the Nefesh HaBamis, a little bit to Gida. The fair, there has to be sometimes, persuading the Nefesh HaBamis, first of all, in a very simple language, and then a bit higher, and a bit lecher, and a bit lecher. Over so the idea is, like we saw before, to bring him to tshuva. Amit is, with a tremendous brain, that he also will lose all the halamas for stadium, and he will also have mahus alakus pink to say with that Nefesh Elokis. And when I say pink to zevi, we have to say b'mayla yisera od yoter than it is in the Nefesh Eloki. We have to say, but we'll see that's kilo the tremendous toisefes which occurs in all inyonim from kedusha al yidei the bir toicha kedusha from the dover shehoya rochi, but that's in from the Nefesh HaBamis. Also, the iketachlis is the Nefesh HaBamis. En afar said the Rebbe, Bigtei Laharitz. Gam la'aguf and nefesh habami beginnens gilui erein tzeiv. Gam la'aguf. In other words, the guf also has to come to see that. That's what we're going to see now. Well, idea is boniness, bisavish yesh me ayin, eich shekol ma shenisava, hu mikoyach elaki amahava oi. So he said that begins with a straightforward is boniness, that a mensch, that you say in Yiddish, klärt sich ein. Yeah, he puts his mind into it. He's been in the simple, well, it's not simple, but the concept of yesh me, yeah, ayin. What that means, eich shekel ma shenisava hu mikoyach eloki hamahava oisoi. That everything that you see and everything which has come about, or there is a koyach eloki which is mahava that. And as the Alter Rebbe is Mechadish and Moisid, in Shara Yichud, it's every second that that's happening. But you look at the world, you see a world, you say, oh, how did that come about? It came about from a koyach eloki which was mahava. How do you know that? So he says, Shazay, where are we? Mikoyach eloki, ki ein dova oise es atzmei, ve'enu chai me atzmei, ki mikoyach eloki amahava oisoi, o machaya oi. In other words, if you see inyanim, which you call created beings, and you see mention and worlds and all sorts of inyanim, then you say to them, how the heck did they get there? You know, where did they come from? So you say that Ein Dov says, yes, that's me, something must have made them. Maybe they just made themselves. Whatever we're going to see in a minute, that surely that one also, you can't possibly say that they made themselves for certain reasons. And you look at them and you see, and how do you call it? What they call in the Rebbe Friedrich Rebbe calls it in many Maimarim, yeah, the seichel ha-bori, the healthy seichel, yeah, not the persuaded seichel, no, the healthy seichel that looks at all these unbelievable things and just says, well, you know, ein dovar oises atzmei, because they must have come about from somebody and something, and who is that? The Eibishter. And not only did they come about, but they're being preserved every second, also by that same, yeah, unbelievable koyach, what he brought them out. Yeah, he brought them about. Shazeh yochol liyos, yeah, gam. In other words, at the beginning of the Nefesh Abami, the way the Nefesh Abami is, yeah, mitzad, yeah, the Matthias of the world, Nishanina, Rotzeis me Rechem Imoy, that he shochet Tzechois the Nefesh Abami, and that's the way he grows. Yeah, had he called with a Magushim Dik leaning towards all Inyanim. Nonetheless, even how he is at the beginning of the Aveda, the Nefesh Abami can be masik. That's because he does have a certain, how do you call it, limited in what you might call aspect, or limited in scope, or how do you call it, what's the word? Scope. He has a limited scope of seichel, but he does have. Rak shezo v'chinas hasogas hametzias levod. Well, that's only hasogas hametzias, and he just knows that there is a Eloki, shareinu roya mahus ha'ayinu Eloki amahave. He doesn't see the Ayin Eloki, which brings about the yesh. Di lamole nitna reshus le'ayin, really, that's the Alter Rebbe. Yeah, Shalom Aleichem. Di lamole nitna reshus le'ayin lirois, lo'hoy roya es hayesh klal. He wouldn't see the yesh, he would only see the Ayin. He would only look at the Ikar, not at the, he wouldn't look at the Tofel. The Kain hu beriyas hanishomes hagavoyes, says the Rebbe, so is it in the rear of the nishomes hagavoyes, lamata, sheri also mitzad nishoma, harehem roim, es ha'ayin ha'elaki. In other words, that these neshamas hagavoyes, they don't see the gashmi and they don't see the chumri, like he brings over there, the Alter Rebbe. They see the Ayin Eloki, and remember the whole gashmi and chumri is just tofahu, who batil betachas habitul to the Ayin Eloki, and like he brings over there, it's only Ayin Fana, Ziv ha'arabial, a batil elaike, but that's a din and at the Ayin Eloki. So he was here a pillar that Neshamas Hager, Gavoyas, they see the world much differently than what we do. Yeah, they see first of all the Ayin Elokei, and then they see it's a bit of a funny looking circus that just sort of drags itself around. It's completely bottled, doesn't have any real mamoshes in it. It just sort of drapes the room. Over the Yom, they see the Ayin Elokei. And the farm, when they asked the famous story, when they asked the Rabbi Rashab, the man brought in the wood for the fire, and he said that there's so many tons of wood, and there's so many 100 kilograms, and each kilogram costs 5 rubles. The fire, the Rabbi couldn't understand. He couldn't figure what was. He couldn't work out the equation. He couldn't figure it. So the people were standing around there. They were just completely dumbfounded. They hear these Maimonim. It's unbelievable. Moya, that gives 4 hours, give out a course. He can't even make 5 times 100 is 500. Like that. What is it doing? So all of a sudden the Rebbe looked at one of them and he said, well, where's Roy Tana? You've been in Gansen, nicht in them. I'm just not in that. I've been and he'll always have a club. That's what he wants for. In other words, he was in the Ayin Elokei, is all the rest of it you can't really know. Can't listen. And I remember I once heard from my teacher, Baba. I once heard from him, he was my teaching Gemara at the beginning. I learned Gemara with Baba. So we learned Baba Basha. After a while we came in the second period. I was sitting over there, Gemara. The Gemara says, Menayin. I think I told you guys the story. The Menayin Shabavu hu b'tzofei Eretz Yisrael. How do we know? The Bavel was in the north of Eretz Yisrael. Shenema hu mitzofen tipos. I don't want to mention not a very happy pasuk. That's interesting Gemara. Yeah, how do we know the Bavel? So I remember I said to Rabbi, what did he derive from a pasuk? You just take out your compass, look up on your map. Now suddenly we've got a compass on it. And you see the Bavel is north. You hear, I know, so Bavel's in the north. What do you need a pasuk? The Gemara says, Minayin, let's bring the pasuk. So he said, that's a very good question. He asked a good shaila, and he said that it appears to him that the answer is that if you go mitzad the Amiti Sinif and Elokus, the Ayin, then the whole world is a bottle. It doesn't really have any Matthias Beklau, and you can't tell from the world. You can't know if the world is a Matthias or it's not. Can't really know anything in the world, just what you see in the world, because maybe a second later the Avish will want. It'll all change, it'll be completely different. It's a time Legami Beis and Acha. The Rav Amanei Saba, when he sat down to eat, and so according to some days, even after he'd made Natilas Yadayim, they used to pray to the Avish that he should give him food, even though the food that he was about to make a mighty. He used to pray to the Avish and give medicine. It's already there, you already wash your hands with that. So the answer is that Rabbi Vanina knew that what was now, 1 second, in another second, ain't shum rayam v'achshav le'odrekin. The way you see the world, you can't know. It can't go on.
The Bochim also pray like that. The Bochim also pray like that.
The Bochim do that?
So quickly there won't be anything.
They don't rely that it's going to be there.
Yeah,
well, I don't know. That was a Frank wasn't the husband. But anyway, whatever. So Rabbi answered me and he said, if you see, like Posik does, the Ayin Elokei you can derive from the world. The Posik promises you. And the Posik says, yeah, that's the way it is now. And mitzad the Posik, he says, when you start to hope it'll be that way. So therefore the Gemara says, Minayin. One of Weissman. Well, of course says as they put it in the Bible. Mr. Thomas says the same Bible. Just take it and change it for no reason. Over Einochanam. Kahu is really. Yeah, fair, no? Not bad. But if I may say in all modesty, I think the Kasha was also pretty good. But anyway, those are the Torahs. And Mamira says the Rebbe, and then he goes on to say that there's a Yisri. He said, it calls him Asogas HaMetzias, but he says a Yisri. That even though it's a Yediv Asoga, Urak Puchinas Yediv HaMetzias, look at this. Ach etzem hasoges hadovo shekach hu harizeh b'chinas riyah mamish. Whoa. In other words, it's only riyah hamatzias, but I'm sorry. Hasoges hamatzias, over down here lamata, even hasoges hamatzias is riyah mamish. And he's going to get just as we are a little bit further, he's going to slip into mahus. For the time being, he said, it's only your dear samatias, or be in your dear samatias, mahus. I'm sorry, Riyah, yeah. And he said, that's only hilamata. The neshamas in Eilam Masalyanim, even though they're masik mahus, but they don't have it mamish be Riyah misuk zeh. In other words, we're going to meet up now with another Riyah, that even though it's a Riyah, which is verbunden with Seichel, but it's more Gashmi than it is Sichli. And therefore it's got a mila over the Riyah, how it is in Gan Eden. And then Liosid, that's what the Rebbe said, just open your eyes, you've already got it. Liosid, it's going to be a click in the lens, and you're going to mamish Mahusaraka. So let's, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do a rather unfair thing. Leave you all to the next year, basically. It's, because I got to go upstairs, we've got to double marry. Complain that we double marry late.
Mr. Kim will see it before the next year.
What is this?
We could see it before the next year.
We should see it all before the next year, that's what he says. Oh man, Kane, you here? But, yeah? I'm terribly sorry, my son. The bottom want to double marry, and I have to double on time with them because by the time they get back, and we don't mind. Okay, so there we are, guys. So you can take our word for it that everything is hidden in this episode, one way or another. The other hadikot, all the kettles boil through the deception. So, my Bentia, I'll just see for a second. So, you feel me with Moshe?
I'm going to open your door.